Rainbow Six Siege, one of, if not the hardest FPS games on the entire market. At Siege's core, there's 5 pillars that make you a good Siege player that you need to learn. Number 1 being utility, number 2 being settings and mechanics, number 3 being map knowledge, number 4 being game sense, and number 5 being operator selection. In all of these 5 categories, there's a lot of subcategories that I can also break down, and that's what this video is for. Going into my number 1 spot, we have utility. Timestamps are below if you want to skip this and go to other parts, as this is going to be a long video, but specifically the utility section is going to be a big one, so strap in. First of all, for utility, we have every single operator's primary ability, which is utility in and of itself. And with that, there's 34 attackers and 33 defenders. And if you're watching this at any point during year 8 that's not year 8 season 1, then there's even more, right? So there's a lot of primary abilities, not to mention there are default cameras, there's droning, there's reinforcement, there's secondary gadgets that come on every single operator, there's all these attachments that you have to run on every single operator, there's vertical play, there's holes you can make, there's entire site setups you have to learn. So with all of that, where do you even begin? Well, I'll tell you, the first thing that you need to learn is every single operator's primary ability. Now, the easiest way to learn this is to go into the operators, and you can go to operator guides right here. You click on that, and there are little videos here that show you what button to press, and when you press them, what the button does. So sledge, for example, you press the button and it sledges open a hole. Let's go to a more complicated person. Let's go to like OSA, right? Operator guides. You equip the shield, you can press it again to deploy the shield, and now you have a deployable shield, right? So the quickest way to learn these operators is, again, those operator guides for every single operator in the entire game. Once you've done that, you can go into terrorist hunts, which are right here. You press home, you press play, you press training, you press training grounds, press lone wolf, and you'll be able to go into a terrorist hunt of any map of your choice that you set in your settings, which we will talk about later. With that being said, there are plenty of different ways that new players can learn because of the update that came in year 8. There's training grounds, there is a shooting range where you can learn the recoil of every single weapon with every single attachment, you can shoot training dummies, there's situations as well, which are kind of okay. It's kind of just a campaign and an easy way to get renowned. And then in the bottom left here, there's operator specialties. If you want to get into all of the different roles in the game, which you probably should learn once you learn all of the abilities, the game breaks it down very well here. So for attackers, there's breachers, there's intel operators, there's support operators, there's anti-gadget operators, there's entry operators. I don't know why they call them frontline. It should just be called entry, but whatever. There's entry/fragger operators, and then there are map control operators. Same thing on defense, right? Trappers, intels, support, anti-gadget, anti-entry, and crowd control. So you can learn all of these different operators. You get rewards for playing all of these different operators, so you can learn all of the roles within the game. Now, the game makes it pretty complicated because, again, there's 12 roles, so I'll give you a basic breakdown that's even more simple than this. There's entry, there's support, and there's flex. That's all 3 of the roles for defense and attack. Entries are people that are meant to get frags with their utility. They're meant to frag out, they're meant to get kills. Supports are meant to use their utility to win rounds by planting, by getting walls open, right? Your thermites, your thatchers, your gridlocks. And then your flex players are anything in between that you can't really put into a category, like fuse or lion, right? So 3 categories, you can pretty much boil it down to those. There are tons of guides on my channel about which category to choose and which type of player you might be based off of your playstyle. So now that you know what all the operators do, you know their general way of playing, we have all the other utility to cover. So I brought you onto the map of Clubhouse, and Clubhouse is arguably one of the easiest maps to understand because it's pretty straightforward what you have to do. With that being said, I'm going to show you the other pieces of utility that you have. You have secondary utility, which is in the bottom left next to your guns. For me, I have barbed wire, so I press the secondary utility button and I place it down. Barbed wire is great for information. If people walk in it, it makes a lot of noise, and it makes especially more noise if an attacker walks in it, but also it slows people down if you're an attacker. So pretty good to put on staircases, under windows, on doorways, or anywhere that you know an attacker is going to have to walk through it. Proximity alarms are the same thing, but they're more hidden and are much louder, but they don't slow the enemy down. There's a lot of things. There's impact grenades, there's nitro cells, there's bulletproof cameras, and then on attack they have frag grenades, flash grenades, smoke grenades, claymores, breach charges, hard breaching charges, like Dawn 6. Like, there's just so much that you have to learn. There are plenty of guides that teach you how to use each and every single one individually. What I would do is do what I'm doing right now, go into a custom game or go into an actual game and just figure it out for yourself. That's going to just be the quickest way you're going to learn all of that secondary utility. The one thing that I do want to show you on Clubhouse though is reinforcements. Reinforcements are very simple. Your team has a pool of 10 reinforcements that you can choose from. You use them to reinforce any wall that is soft and can be broken, like this wall right here. I can open this wall. Now you want to reinforce walls that attackers are going to open to further get into the site. So people on attack love to open this wall right here on Clubhouse. And if they open this wall and they stand outside, now they have a direct line of sight into the objective from outside, which is very, very powerful. To deny this, all you have to do is reinforce the wall. You just hold F on the wall. It's very, very simple. Now, they have to get some sort of hard breacher to be able to get the wall open. But if you have an anti-hard breacher like Cade, Mute, or Bandit, you can deny them from even doing that. So there's a lot of complexity, and that's just for one wall. You still have all these different operators that you can play for holding down different sites. But you want to use reinforcements as a way to stop attackers from getting walls open. This being a great example. Another way you would use reinforcements is to stop them from having a line of sight. So let's say that they open this wall up right here, and normally you have head holes on this wall right here, and you have somebody playing behind these little rafters. This is what we call it. So we call those rafters. They'll play here, and then you'll have a defender sit here, and they'll watch as somebody comes into the breach. What you should do is reinforce this wall. The reason you reinforce this wall right here is because people will get a direct line of sight by opening this wall and then opening this wall, and now they can see you inside of rafters. So there's two ways to use reinforcements, like I just said, to keep walls closed, but also to block lines of sight that would normally be accessible to attackers if you don't reinforce the wall. Those are the two ways to use reinforcements. You can also reinforce hatches, but doing this is only used really if you're playing a site below a hatch, because then you don't want them to be able to just open the hatch and get a direct line of sight into the objective. So really only do this if you're playing below a hatch that needs to be reinforced. So I know that's a lot, but that's it for the utility section. If you want anything broken down more, again, I have tons of YouTube videos on my channel that break down pretty much everything that I just talked about. My second tip is going to be settings and mechanics. Now, settings are as simple as pressing the options button right here and going into your settings and making a few changes. Now, these changes can immediately make your gameplay experience a lot better. Mechanics, on the other hand, are things that you have to learn mechanically with your keyboard and your mouse to get better at the game, which is much harder because you have to build muscle memory. For example, someone who has really good mechanics is really good at aiming and really good at quick leaning. There's a bunch of different types of mechanics you can learn, but first let's go over settings. First of all, the only settings that I particularly think matter a lot is drone after prep needs to be on manual. If you're droning into the site, into the objective during the prep phase, and you need to drone whenever you're not in the prep phase anymore, and you put this on manual, it will make it to where whenever the prep phase ends, your drone doesn't just shut off and then you have to get back on it, right? Which is very useful if you're running away from somebody on your drone and there's a defender chasing you and it's about to be over, like the prep phase is about to be over, and then boom, you're just kicked off your drone and then they get a free drone. But if you have it on manual, this doesn't happen and you can drone even after the prep phase. So you want to have this on manual. Now for volume, you need to have your volume on night mode. Night mode is the best volume that you can have it on. It makes loud noises quieter and it makes quiet noises louder. This means that you can hear footsteps across the map, but your gun shooting and explosions going on around you aren't as loud. Now some people say it's the complete opposite and that hi-fi does this really well. I honestly don't know a difference, but what most content creators say is to put it on night mode, so I would just trust what they do. I've been on hi-fi for so long that I just keep it on there and I don't really notice anything different. For your display though, you want to have your max FPS and you want to change your aspect ratio. If you're on console, you can skip this part. If you're on PC though, this is very, very crucial. You never want your aspect ratio to be on default or on 16:9 or 16:10. You want your aspect ratio to either be 4:3 or 5:4. You want stretched res. The reason you want stretched res on this game is because it makes enemies seem a lot bigger and it makes picking angles, especially with very small scopes, a lot easier. Every single competitive player or pro player for that matter, any single person that plays this game competitively, any high ranker, has stretched res on, and it is for that perspective reason that I just highlighted for you. Now, 4:3 is the most popular one. That's very good for 1.5 times scopes. So if you want to use 4:3, that's what I use, that's what Bolo uses, that's what Sport uses. Sometimes Bolo goes to 5:4 though, which makes it even more stretched. This is really good for 1 time scopes. So it depends on which scope you use more. I use 1.5 times scopes more, so I run 4:3. As far as the FOV goes, you always want to keep it between 90 and 87. If you're on 4:3, I would recommend the 90. If you're on 5:4, I would recommend 87. It doesn't really matter as long as it's above 86. It does not matter. Just keep your field of view at max. HUD, I put it at minimum. I hate having a huge HUD. I put it at 80. You should do the exact same thing. Graphics don't matter at all. I have a great PC, so I put everything at high. The one thing that does matter though is the shadow quality. You want your shadow quality to be at least high because there's some times where I see people's shadows before I see them and it gets me free kills. Anti-aliasing you can just completely turn off because it gives you more frames. I would put everything on low if you don't have a great PC like I do because it gives you more frames, but other than that, it doesn't really matter. And then for controls, the two things that do matter is you want your gadget deployment and your drone deployment on advanced. It just makes it to where you don't get stuck stuck in an animation when you need to get out of that animation, and then you can take a gunfight if you need to. You also want to have as many mouse buttons as you have on your mouse not bound to anything. I only have 2. You don't want your mouse buttons and you using your mouse buttons to make your aim worse in any way. So don't use your mouse buttons if at all possible. I have 2 keys bound to it, but those 2 keys that I use are only used when I'm not moving, so it doesn't really matter. And then accessibility for crosshairs doesn't matter. Completely personal. You could really do anything here. Now let's talk about some mechanics. So one mechanic you need to learn, and you need to stop doing for that matter, is crouching. Stop crouching, especially if you're new to the game, especially if you're in low elo, because people in low elo and people who are bad at the game are really bad at aiming head level. They usually aim crouched level. And if you're sitting crouched level, they're going to headshot you, and you're going to make it a lot harder on yourself when you're taking gunfights. So if you stand up and they're not aiming head level, they're gonna shoot you in the body, and if you're good and you're aiming head level, then you're gonna hit them in the head, right? So what I would do for most low ranked players is just stop crouching unless you need to get behind cover like this, right? So stop crouching for 1. For 2, a really important habit that even I mess up on sometimes that can really rank you up even in the higher elo is just aiming head level, right? Head level is about this, and I'll actually give you a good metric. If you barricade a door like I'm doing right now, these buckles on the door are exactly head level. Every single time, if you aim where these buckles are, you will aim head level. Now, what if you don't have these buckles here, right? Well, if you tear down the reinforcement, they stay there, right? Just use these buckles as a way to know where head level is. It's not accurate with windows, only with doors. And once you do that and you start doing that, you'll always remember where head level is. So that's my first mechanic, is aiming head level. And then another thing I want to talk about is quick peeking. So something that you need to learn is Shaiko peeking, and then you can learn quick peeking afterwards. So Shaiko peeking is when you lean to the left, move to the left, unlean, and move to the right. And you can do this on your right as well, where you move and lean to the right, move and unlean to the left. So the best way to do this is to have your lean keys on toggle. I have my lean keys on hold, and I have had them on hold my entire career, so it would be very difficult and unnecessary for me to switch them to toggle. Whatever is most comfortable for you. Putting it on toggle just makes it a little cleaner and crisper, but learning how to quick lean is very important. The reason you quick lean is because let's say you're out of drones. You have no information at all to the room that you're coming into, but you think there might be enemies in there. So let's say there might be an enemy behind this box, there might be an enemy on this doorway, there might be an enemy sitting in that corner, there might be an enemy behind this box. The only way that I would be able to safely get information is by quick leaning. So let's say I want to check if anyone's behind this box, I can quick lean. So I'm safe, but I got the information if someone was behind there or not, right? So I quick lean, okay, no one's there, I quick lean, okay, no one's there, I quick lean, there's a guy there, okay, now I'm going to change levels and shoot the guy. So using quick leaning as a way for information, you don't even have to do it scoped. Doing it scoped makes it easier and quicker, but you can do it unscoped too, and just check. Right, so quick leaning, very, very important. Another thing you need to know is tracking and flicking. So tracking is very important because if someone's running across your screen, you need to be able to track their head accurately without going too fast or without going too slow, right? So learn how to track. You can do this very, very easily by just going into aim labs and tracking, or like finding a piece of dust or a feather outside and tracking it while ADSing. You can build these tracking muscles very, very easily, but what's more important and what you use more often is flicking. So if my scope's right here, right, for whatever reason, my scope's right here, and there's a guy here, and he's about to shoot me, I need to be able to flick there and kill him, right? I need to have accurate flicks. I need to have accurate flicks this way. I need to have accurate flicks this way. I need to have accurate flicks this way and this way, right? So you need to get your flicking up. Coming into my number 3 spot is going to be map knowledge. Map knowledge is hand in hand with my 4th point coming up next, which is game sense, but map knowledge is a very good way to accelerate your game sense if you just learn the maps. So look in the bottom of my screen. There's a little compass. When I turn around, the compass moves. And there's letters above the compass that show what room I'm in. So you can go around to all the maps in a custom game or whenever you're in any game in general, and you can learn what all of the rooms' names are, right? So at least you know the names of rooms, and you can also use your compass to know which side of the map they are, right? So very easy to learn, at least in a directional sense, how the map works. But also map knowledge is more important than just learning the names of rooms and what they look like. Map knowledge can get very advanced. Let's say you have 2 sites here. Well, having good map knowledge is knowing that they're probably going to push this wall right here because you have the game sense to know that these 2 walls are facing outside and it's right next to their spawn. Map knowledge is knowing, hey, I need to put holes here because if I put holes here, I can stand on top of this table and watch this window and they take rafters. Map knowledge is knowing, hey, there's a window on the other side of this wall, so I can open this wall to be able to watch the window, right? So learning common holes like that, learning common pushes, learning where each room is, what you need to reinforce, what you need to hold is all very important. So the more that you learn every single map and you learn how every single player plays every single map, you will accelerate your game sense beyond your belief. Which goes into my number 4 spot, which is game sense. Again, if you want to learn game sense, the easiest way to learn game sense is just by playing the game and learning the maps. But if you want any other tips, I can give you some right now. First of all, game sense is knowing where people push and where people hold. So if I'm a defender, I need to know that people are either going to push the east and the south side of the map, or they're going to push the west side and they're going to push below. That's very common stuff. If we go into basement, same thing. People are either going to push blue and dirt, or they're going to open the hatches and push down the hatches and main stairs. So you need to learn where attackers commonly push. You also need to learn where people typically defend as well. You can't just run in and expect the defender to not be sitting in a corner or on a staircase like this. This is a very common place for people, especially in high elo, to sit if you're playing inside of basement. So if you're an attacker and you're coming, let's say, through the lobby door, or you're coming in through secret window, you need to be able to have the game sense to know, hey, there's typically a player at the top of the stairs. Maybe I should go around, quick peek this, and pre-fire him whenever he's on the top of that staircase, right? So learning the game sense of where people push, where people defend is very important, and the only way you're going to learn that, again, is just by playing the game and learning from your mistakes. The number one way to accelerate your game sense, other than map knowledge, is learning from your mistakes. I know it sounds very obvious, but if every time you die, you're not thinking, how did I die? Oh, I died that way? Okay, I'm never doing that again. Then you're missing out and you're going to not learn anything. Every single time that I die, I keep a mental note of how that guy killed me, what I could have done differently, and why I died in the first place, right? If I'm standing in front of a doorway, extreme example, if I'm standing still in front of a doorway and someone breaks down the barricade and shoots me, I'm not gonna think, oh, that guy's aim is cracked, or, oh, I'm so dumb. I'm gonna think, okay, maybe I don't stand in front of a doorway next time, right? Stuff like that. It gets even more advanced. Let's say someone has a prone hole right here. I use all the time. If you as an attacker walk in this door and I shoot you from this little hole, you're gonna think, oh, that guy's just a rat, right? But then you're not learning. Maybe next time think, oh, I should have droned the room to see if there was anybody on these feed holes. Or, oh, I should have quick peeked. Or, oh, maybe I should have pre-fired. Or, oh, this is a really common angle. Maybe I should have just known you was there and checked, right? Like, you need to be learning from everything and making every single thing and every reason you die your fault to accelerate your game sense and your rank. Coming into my number 5 spot, again, is operators and operator selection. So let's go over this because this is a pretty quick category, but it's arguably the most important one. First of all, once you know all of the utility, you know all the mechanics you need to learn, you have all the map knowledge, you have all the game sense, now you can start thinking of strategies you can do and operators you can use to execute said strategies, because you have everything else covered in your head, right? So first of all, we go on the clubhouse. Like I said, you need to know which operators can open reinforced walls. You need to know which operators have smokes. You need to know which operators have EMP grenades to open the wall, right? So learning all of the operators' secondary utility is very important. If you're in prep phase, you can see which operator has what secondary utility, so you can actually plan this out. But again, operator selection is very important. You need to know what is needed for every single site. And again, you're only going to know that by playing the game. But I can give you a basic breakdown that should work for most sites. You're going to need a hard breacher. You're going to need somebody with either EMP grenades or a Thatcher / Maverick to help your hard breacher get the wall open. You're going to need a map control operator or a flex operator to help you take control of the map, like Ying, Jackal, Dokkaebi, Lion, or any of these shield operators. You're going to need a fragger, somebody who is meant to get kills to walk in the building before your hard breach so that your hard breach doesn't die. And then flex operators can pretty much play whatever they want, so you have some room there. Typically what I would do though is play somebody for flank watch like Nomad, Gridlock, or Zero. But that's a basic breakdown. If you have one of those 5 operators, you're probably going to be fine. So in terms of actual operator selection, look at what all of your teammates are picking and use that guide as a way to learn what you need to pick. Like, oh, okay, we have everything but a hard breacher, I'll play a hard breacher. We have everything but a person with EMP grenades, I'll bring EMP grenades. We have everything but somebody to go in and get frags, okay, I'll play Yana, I'll play Ashe, I'll play Zofia, I'll play an entry fragger. Same thing goes for defense. We have everything except for wall denial, okay, I'll grab the bandit, I'll grab the kid, I'll grab the mute. We have everything except for grenade denial, okay, I'll grab the Aruni, I'll grab the Jaeger, I'll grab the Wamai. We have no deployable shields, okay, I'll play Azami or I'll grab a deployable shield. We have no entry denial, okay, I'll play Smoke, I'll play Goyle, I'll play Tachanga. Alka. It goes so deep, but the best way to learn what each operator does and what you need is to use that metric that I gave you and to fill in the roles that your team needs. At the core of this game is a strategy game. You can't have mains in this game because there are operators that are needed for every single site. So with that being said, that's it for the operator selection part of the video, and that's actually it for the entire video. If you want me to break down these 5 sections in more depth, I can make 5 separate videos. Let me know if you want to see that down in the comments. My name's Alka. Like the video if you liked it. I will see y'all in the next video. Later.